Hi, everyone. Welcome to Live with OKclarity.com, the live experience that will bring you clarity on managing holidays and eating disorder recovery. Tonight's live stream will be around 30 minutes, maybe a little shorter. At around the 20-minute mark, I'll review and answer some of the Q&A that came in via the live stream chat directly on OKclarity.com. If you have questions, you can drop them into the chat anytime, but I won't address any of them until the end. If you're joining us tonight from other social media platforms like Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, welcome. Just know that I won't be taking the Q&A from those platforms, only from the live stream on OKclarity.com directly. So you can go over to OKclarity.com and click to join us live on OKclarity.com, and if you want a chance to get your questions answered. Quick and important disclaimer. Everything discussed here tonight is for educational and entertainment purposes only. None of it is a substitute for professional mental health, wellness, medical, or financial advice. I will introduce myself. My name is Malka Katzenstein. I am a wellness and self-image coach, and one of my specialties is disordered eating and emotional eating. So therefore, tonight's conversation is important to me, and you can learn more about me on OKclarity.com. So tonight we're going to talk about disordered eating recovery, 4 tips to avoid a relapse over Pesach. And I just want to clarify a little bit about disordered eating, what disordered eating is, and the difference between disordered eating and eating disorders. So disordered eating goes like on a spectrum where you have disordered eating. It's all about, both of them are having an unhealthy relationship with food. Disordered eating is having an unhealthy relationship with food where it can be hard to know what how to manage your eating habits. And an eating disorder is actually a diagnosis. It's a diagnosis, has to meet certain criterion. It's like disordered eating that gets to the point where it's affecting your daily functioning. But you don't have to actually have a diagnosis of an eating disorder in order to get help. If you feel like your eating is disordered in any way and it's affecting you and you don't like it and you feel like you're having a hard time managing it, it's okay to get help. Anybody can get help with anything like that. It's okay to learn how to. You don't have to qualify, is what I wanted to say. So holidays can be challenging for people who are in recovery from eating disorders and for people who have disordered eating. There are a lot of meals with a lot of food, festive meals, maybe special food, so it's exciting that they're there. And it might feel like it's really easy to get out of control. And even if you've been doing well, and especially if you feel like you're not that steady or stable yet in your recovery, also being out of a regular routine can make it hard to stay on top of a recovery plan, and it can be challenging for anybody. We like routine. It can be really easy to stick to, our regular daily routines, which include, eating and, meal planning and meal prep, and holidays kind of shake that up. So that can be hard. Another thing that can be hard about holidays is that family and social situations can be emotionally triggering. It can also just be different. People have social anxiety, or just it can be a hard time. And when you're feeling like that it can be very tempting to cope with those hard feelings, those difficult emotions, with disordered eating behaviors. And just even thinking about what's coming up, thinking about the food, thinking about the family and social things, thinking about what you're going to wear, thinking about where you're going to be. There are a lot of things that, I just want to validate and say that it can be difficult for anybody. And even just thinking about it can feel scary and bring up anxiety. So eating disorders are pretty prevalent. They can affect anybody, any age and any gender. It's not just, people think that there's, a type, and the way people look. You can't ever really know who's struggling with an eating disorder, because there are different eating disorders, and just the way somebody looks isn't going to be, it can't tell just from that also. So anybody can be struggling. It is more common among females, but it can affect anybody at any age, like I said. And again, an eating disorder is a diagnosis. Disordered eating is not a diagnosis, but it can also be a sign of an unhealthy relationship with food. And someone who's experiencing disordered eating still can benefit from these tips and also get help in a broader way. This topic tonight is important because eating disorders are not about food. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about. When we think about eating disorders, we think it's about the food. We think it's about, yes, it's an unhealthy relationship with food. Disordered eating is an unhealthy relationship with food, but often it's not about the food. It's just an unhealthy coping way to cope with difficult emotions. And food is the tool, let's say. And that's hard because we need food to survive. So if somebody has, an addiction or other unhealthy coping tools that people use, we do what we can to just, not have anything to do with that. But it's hard to do that with food. I mean, it's not hard. It's impossible to do that with food because we need food to eat. So that's why it's really important and worthwhile to learn how to have a healthy relationship with food and to not let food control you and to feel like you're in control of yourself. I don't want to say in control of food, and even using the word control doesn't give the right connotation that I'm trying to get across, because I'm trying to help if people feel out of control with food, and I'm trying to say, like, you don't have to feel like that. So it's about learning to have a healthy relationship with food and even enjoying it, because we need food to survive, like I said. And when you're talking about holidays, yeah, holiday meals can be great and they can be fun. And the special foods that we have on holidays are exciting and they're treats. And it can be so good, feel so good, and feel so liberating to be able to look at it like that. So I hope I can help with that. Another thing is, especially with Pesach, there actually restriction is built in to the holiday and food for that holiday. So that makes it kind of tricky also. So I just wanted to mention that because for people who are, who restrict, whose eating disorders are like restrictive eating disorders, or if your disordered eating tends to be on the restrictive side, I just want to mention that I understand that Pesach can be really challenging because of just the restrictions that are built in there. But hopefully, hearing this and getting, taking some of these tips will help to just learn how to, okay, whatever, make that work, so we can't have that, we can have that, and find other ways to deal with that and not feel like that's threatening or triggering to the eating disorder. Also, like I said, holidays can be hard. Different situations, different schedules. It can be hard to stick to a plan that we've been sticking to that's been working for us. And it can feel scary just to think about it. And food is a very big part of it. Also, besides the fact that there's more food, usually more meals, more food, more people. For some people, it's uncomfortable to eat around other people. And excuse me, and different schedules. So it's important, it's worthwhile to learn to have some self-awareness around food and feelings, and then learn some strategies to help you feel good and hopefully enjoy the holiday and enjoy the foods of the holiday. So this is an important topic for me because I've worked with and spoken to a lot of people who struggle with emotional eating, disordered eating, and eating disorders. And there's just so much pain and confusion. And I want to help by giving some tools to gain some self-awareness and confidence and to not feel controlled by food. Like I said, we don't want to feel controlled by anything, especially not food, because we need it. We have to eat, and it shouldn't be scary. So here there are many things that might be able to help, but to just kind of make it easy, I have 4 tips here that I'd like to share that could help, that can help even now. I hope that they can help in the moment, that you'll be able to apply them when things, you're feeling like maybe things are getting away from you, or feeling like, oh, like a moment of like, oh no, I don't know what to do here. So hopefully these can help. But I also hope that this can be helpful to you, just even give you a sense of calm and a sense of security that you can do this, that you can manage it and you can do it. So the first tip I want to share is have a plan. And I think this is really the most important tip, having a plan about what you're going to do so that you don't feel out of control and you don't feel scared and anxious. So if you're working with a dietitian, talk to your dietitian and express how you're feeling and say, like, I'm worried about this. Tell the dietitian what you're worried about and what you're concerned about. And hopefully that dietitian, the professional, will help you come up with a meal plan, come up with some strategies for what to do when you may not have foods that you may be out for a meal or with other people or away, and you may not have the choices that you would have if you were home or preparing a meal by yourself. So you want to be able to be comfortable with making decisions in the moment with what's there. Something that I tell people is, decide before you put food on your plate. Look around and see what's there. If it's a buffet or if there's a lot of food on the table, see what's there and decide what you want to eat before you put it on your plate. So that way also you have a plan and you know what you're doing. You have a strategy. And also, it's okay if you want to try everything. It's a holiday, it's a special meal, it's okay. So have a plan for what you're going to eat, and also have a plan for your eating schedule. It's really important to stay on a schedule, because that way, first of all, it just gives a feeling of stability, which is important, and also it 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 prevents you from feeling out of control. If you're really hungry, then you're going to want to eat everything. If that's one of your problems, if one of the things that you struggle with is either binge eating, the biggest cause of binge eating, by the way, is restriction. It's being hungry, because what happens is we restrict, we say we're going to be good. We're not going to eat that. We're not going to eat too much. And then the food is there, and we're hungry, and we need to take care of that. So to try to not be hungry, eat regularly, eat meals, eat snacks, work on that with your dietitian. If you don't have a dietitian, then kind of plan it for yourself. If a meal is going to be extra late, it's important to have a snack before that. And even a meal. I mean, if a meal is going to be like dinner at 9 o'clock, that might be really late for some people. So have dinner at 7 if that's what you usually do, or even 6 o'clock. And then you can still sit at the table with everybody and have a snack while they're having a meal, or decide what you want to do. Second tip is boundaries. It can be triggering, like I said, it can be triggering to be around people. It can be triggering to be around certain people, or maybe certain family members. Certain topics of conversation might make you uncomfortable, and then you might feel a little bit out of sorts, or you might want to use food to cope. Boundaries are important, so you can be clear for yourself what you'd like to talk about, what you don't want to talk about. If somebody asks you questions that upset you, or a topic of conversation is going on, you can say, you know what, I'd rather not talk about that. You know what? It's amazing how that's such a simple thing to do, and we just don't do it enough. Try it. See how it goes. It doesn't mean, and what's important is to know is that you can't always know how people are going to respond to that, but knowing that you took control of what you were comfortable with can really help a lot. And, if people are still pursuing it, you can always just get up and, go to another room, or you can leave the table for a minute. You can decide also how much time you want to spend with certain people. I mean, I know that sometimes that's not something you can control, but you can always go take a break, and, to the best of your ability and with whatever is in your control, you are in charge of your boundaries. Tip number 3 is support. If you are in eating disorder recovery, or for any other reason working with a therapist, discuss this with your therapist. Tell your therapist that you're nervous about this. Tell your therapist that this is a topic that makes you, feel anxious, and your therapist can help you work through the feelings, give you healthy coping tools to manage your feelings, and keep your therapy appointments. I know schedules get different, so as much as you can, stick to the appointments. If you'll be away or your therapist will be away, see if there's a way that you can have a phone or a Zoom appointment. Just as much as you can to stick to your regular support, your support tools. Do it as much as you can. If you don't have a therapist or you're not going to be able to meet with your therapist, see if there's somebody in your life, a family member or a friend that you can rely on, somebody who you can talk to when you're, just somebody to talk to, so you feel like you have somebody in your corner, and maybe even when you're experiencing some anxiety or or any feeling that feels hard, somebody that you can lean on. And tip number 4, which is also really important, is self-care. You need to take care of yourself so that you can have a certain, control over yourself. You have certain self-awareness, and to just feel good in yourself and in your body and in your mind. So, when we say self-care, and I talk about this a lot, we think it's like spa days and manicures, and that is self-care, but I'm talking about basic self-care. Like I said before, make sure you eat. When we're hungry, hangry, that word, it's a great word, hungry, angry, when we're hungry, and and then we get into a bad mood and we snap at people, or just don't feel good inside ourselves. Having regular meals can really help with that. It keeps your blood sugar steady, and it really helps with your mood. Getting enough sleep, which also, I know that can be challenging when schedules are off and you may not be home, but as much as you can, make sure you get enough sleep, because that will also help you feel regulated. And actually, regulated, that's the word that I think is an important word here. The self-care, the treat kind of stuff, like the spa kind of thing, if you can do that, because yes, that can help also. But the most important part of self-care is to help you feel regulated. So nutrition, sleep, movement, if you're allowed to exercise, then make sure you do it. And if you are not, because that's part of your eating disorder recovery, find some other kind of way that, a substitute for that. But really, exercise is great for mood and for emotional regulation. Getting outside, hopefully the weather will be nice, and when there's sun, it really makes a difference. I mean, I can tell you today in New York, where I live, it is a beautiful day, and I definitely feel the effect of my mood. And I was lucky enough to get outside, and I know that made a difference for me. So it's a thing. Sunlight and outdoors, if you can, treat yourself to that. Do things that make you feel good. So do things that you enjoy, so you have something to look forward to. Just for you, if you like to read, get time to read. Make sure that you have time to relax, or just schedule activities that you enjoy, because it's going to make you happy. Talk nicely to yourself. It's a long holiday, and you may not be perfect. I mean, none of us are going to be perfect all the time. So if something doesn't go exactly the way you wanted it to do, or if you didn't do the thing that you wanted to do, give yourself some grace, cut yourself some slack, be nice to yourself, say, I know you tried your best. Sorry it didn't work out. It's okay. Next time will be better. Don't beat up on yourself. Don't judge yourself harshly. Just be nice to yourself. Journaling is also a great way. It's a great form of self-care, because it just helps you. It's feedback for yourself. First of all, it can help, it's a good emotional release. And also, while you're writing, you can kind of reflect on what went well, what didn't go so well, what you'd like to be different. And that can be really helpful. So those are some tips. Those are the 4 tips that, that I think can be really helpful. Like I said, in thinking about it, just knowing that those are things that can help you, they can help you plan. And in the moment, hopefully you can remember to fall back on those things if you start to feel a little bit out of control. So I hope, I hope that was helpful. I I'm just going to check to see if there are any questions and see if anyone has anything specific that they wanted answered. Okay, and I don't see anything. So I hope that tonight's conversation provided some clarity on surviving and thriving during Pesach in eating disorder recovery or with disordered eating. And I hope that you walk away with some tools to help you manage and the confidence that you can manage. And if you believe that you can, it's and I believe that you can. I think that anybody, these are, they're simple. Not going to say that they're easy because a lot of things are a lot easier to talk about than they are to actually do, but it's simple. So if you just look at it simple, here's a fifth bonus tip. Don't, just keep things simple. Don't complicate things. Don't make them harder than they have to be. And then they will hopefully be really helpful to you. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and look forward to doing this again.